Hey everyone, before we jump into today's episode, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Open Water. As a chef and restaurant owner, I know how important it is not only to serve amazing food, but also take care of our planet. Open Water makes that easier with their eco-friendly bottled water packaged in 100% recyclable aluminum bottles, helping to reduce the plastic waste. What's even cooler? Open Water is a female-owned company leading the way in sustainability, something we can all get behind. And here's the best part. They're giving our listeners 20% off. Just use promo code INTHEWEEDS at checkout. So whether you're hydrating your team or stocking up for your restaurant, make the switch to Open Water. Delicious water, a healthier planet, and great discount. Cheers to that. All right, I'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsors, Saltwerk. You can check them out at saltwerk.com. You ever wonder what a pinch of Iceland would taste like? Well, you have it now in the most sustainable, flaky sea salt in the world. I've actually traveled to Iceland. Their geothermal powered island is beautiful. There's just a sense of freshness in the air over there, and it translates to this salt. I love this salt. It's delicious. It's the most sustainable. Again, you can buy just the normal flaky sea salt, but they also have infused salts, which I've been using at home lately a lot. They have this birch smoked sea salt that I love using with seafood. They have the lava salt, which is super black and cool looking. It's got a certain different type of taste to it. They have the Arctic thyme salt, which I use for my pickling liquids. And again, guys, just don't think of salt as something to season post recipe. You can use all these salts in the recipe alone. At We The Pizza, we use their flaky sea salt in our dough preparation. And they have this seaweed salt that I just used at an event that I loved at the Indy 500. I made a plant-based crab cake, and I was looking for a little bit more of that ocean flavor. Guess what I used? Saltwerk's seaweed salt gave me just that ocean flavor that I needed for my plant-based crab cake. It was a hit. Guys, if you want to use my promo code, you can. It's at In The Weeds Pod. You can use it on their website. You'll get a 20% discount on all their items. Stock up. This salt is amazing. And again, it is powered 100% by geothermal energy, the most sustainable sea salt on the market. You're welcome. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the In The Weeds podcast, where we dive deep into the craziness of the restaurant industry and so much more. We discuss food, beverage, even food policy issues. Basically, if you love to eat and drink and are curious about this industry, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Spike Mendelsohn, a recovering celebrity chef, a long-life restaurant rat, from washing dishes in my family's business to cooking at Michelin star restaurants, competing in reality cooking competitions, and serving as an advocate for food policy issues. My life is always in the weeds. We're broadcasting live from the District of Columbia, our nation's capital. On today's episode, we have a very special guest. We're rolling out the red carpet for Mayor Muriel Bowser, the trailblazing leader of the District of Columbia and the future 51st state.
That's right.
She's the first African-American woman to serve 3 4-year terms of an American city. Sit back and relax, take a bite of a half smoke, order a jumbo slice, pizza or not. It's go-go time. Please welcome my friend, America's Mayor, Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Thank you, Spike. What an introduction.
Do you like that?
I'll take it.
It's not bad, right?
Not bad at all.
I can't take credit. It's been, I did a couple tweaks on it. I thought the go-go part was kind of fun.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah. I didn't really know that about the D.C. culture, is that the go-go thing.
It's our official music.
Is it?
It is.
Where does that come from?
Well, we have a museum now.
Oh,
so
you do?
you can go visit the museum in Anacostia and get the whole history of go-go. Some say it was Chuck Brown, who was the originator. There's some predecessor music genres to go-go, but nowhere will you hear the go-go sound except D.C. But it's influenced so many other genres, including hip-hop, and you'll pick it up, and it's most distinguished by the conga, by the drum.
Got it. And you're D.C. native, right?
I am, born and raised.
Are most mayors, do they have to be a D.C. native of sorts?
No.
No, not really, right?
Probably our most famous mayor is from Mississippi or Tennessee.
Oh, really?
Marion Barry.
That's right, but maybe that's why you're the 3-time mayor, because you are so localized. You know, it's exciting to have you on the podcast, Mayor, because one, we have a history of working together,
Yep.
and we'll get to all that. But you know, I think, you know, when I first came onto the scene, it was 2008, is right around the first administration of Obama's.
That's right.
And I don't know if you remember this, but I was, this young Top Chef kid right off the show. I had a ton of clout, and I came to DC from New York City, and I was just getting used to talking to press my first time, and I was quoted in the press. I don't know if you remember this, but I called DC a second-tier food city.
I think I do.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
And man, they came after me, Mayor. They did not love that. But you know, the funny part about it is that it was very true at that time, right? We weren't like a big food city like New York or Chicago or LA. But I sit here today with you, and I'm confident to say DC is on top of the culinary scene. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
I would agree with that. And while you will never hear anybody from DC call ourselves second tier,
Right.
as you know.
Big mistake.
Big mistake. We are actually the best city in the world. I say it, and it's also true. But we have put ourselves on the map, I think, with food and nightlife.
Yes.
And it's hard when you have a monument and a White House and a Congress to be known as something other than the government's town.
Yeah.
But we have worked very hard to, yes, embrace that we're a government town, and we love our federal government. But 700,000 people live here. Small businesses get started here. Restaurants get started here. People are employed here. They work every day and send their kids to college from here.
Right.
Like, this is a real place.
It's a normal city.
It's a normal city. And guess what? People go out to eat.
Yeah.
It turns out they probably go out to eat more than in a lot of places, and are willing to spend a lot more money on drinks and hamburgers and pizza. And so we're proud of that. And we're proud now to be getting that recognition and to attract chefs like yourself who, are really good and have a national and global reach to put DC on the map.
It's great that you say that, because, I was here 2008. I came from New York. And it used to be, hey, we're visiting D.C. because we're doing the monuments,
right,
or we're visiting D.C. We're coming to see the White House. More often than not, that is like the secondary reason some of my friends from all over the states are coming to D.C. Even globally, they're like, hey, we heard like this one restaurant is in D.C. and we want, like Maidon, for instance, a Michelin-starred restaurant. Yep. We have Michelin-starred restaurants now too in D.C.
24.
I didn't even know that. We have 24.
We have 24. I'm told we have 24.
Wow.
That's
See,
a lot.
That's
and
a lot.
Per capita, that may make us number one.
That may make us number one, and that's 24 more than we had back when I came on the scene for the first time. So, what is it, about, what has happened during your tenure here that you feel that we've become such a hot spot for entrepreneurship? I mean, I do think the Obama administration had a big piece of reviving the city at a time where it felt a little sleepy.
Yep.
The past president wasn't really coming out, giving to the community as much.
Right.
I think that was a piece. But what really
I think part of it is we had a lot of young people move to D.C. Probably when Mayor Williams was mayor, we only had about 500,000 people that lived here. And over the course of that 25 years, we've grown our population by about 200,000. And a lot of those have been young people who move here to work in the federal government or around the federal government. Young people who, and as a phrase that I use, they like to maximize their free time.
That's
right. So and then when I grew up in D.C., there was not a brunch craze, and now that's a thing. And so I think the influx of people moving here who wanted to really enjoy the whole city really took off. And I think people also discovered, especially recovering New Yorkers, that D.C. is a great place to live.
Yes.
More green space, more sun, housing that is more affordable. And we're not known for, it's not easy to say that, but compared to New York, people found that they could have bigger spaces, more parks for their kids, transportation, biking, access to the rivers, and still get to New York in, 3 hours on the Amtrak.
That's right.
So I think we became known as a place that was really manageable to live.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a product of that exact statement. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
I was in New York. It was expensive. I was living, I mean, probably in a room half the size of the room we're in right now, which is very small. I was paying big money in
Yeah.
rent. And I also felt like there was, I had a lot more opportunity in D.C. There was a lot more real estate to take advantage of for restaurant openings.
Absolutely.
And the neighborhoods. That's the one thing that I thought was really interesting to D.C. because, again, like you look at it as such a political town full of monuments. But and DC is spread out, right? But you wouldn't imagine all the unique neighborhoods like Logan Circle, for instance, or even Adams Morgan. And I actually had dinner at a bistro for the first time in Brookland the other day.
Yes.
Which was, I thought I was beside myself. I would never imagine going out that far for some dinner. But I mean, it just seems like it's spread out everywhere.
Yeah, it's well, we're compact, but we do have very distinct neighborhoods, and there's a global influence here. I think that's another thing that attracts chefs to come to DC. We have 80 embassies in DC, and so you have people coming to visit the embassies, the World Bank. People are also always coming in. Heads of state are always coming in. So I think there's an international influence that New Yorkers thought was just theirs, but we also have.
It's not just New Yorkers.
Yeah, it's not just.
Yeah.
So we are a true global destination. And here's the thing also. We have been on probably a 25-year revitalization in this city. And so people saw, like you just mentioned, opportunity here. So there were neighborhoods where all the storefronts weren't filled.
Right.
And that's changed over time. And even in this area that we're in now, it's like a building boom.
Yeah.
And when I became mayor, 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. We brought the Audi Field here to a place that's called Buzzard Point. I was on a radio show around that time, and one of the reporters said to me, Buzzard Point is the God-forsaken part of Washington, D.C. And I told Tom Sherwood that God has forsaken no part of Washington, D.C.
That's right.
And you just watch what's going to happen at Buzzard Point. So now we have Audi Field. We have hundreds of new D.C. residents in the buildings around us. We're going to have a great connection to the river here. Because we're going to build out those piers into the river, much like we've done on the Potomac side at the wharf.
That's right.
And so there's just more connections for DC residents.
It's mind-boggling to see it when I first came down here because, my restaurants are in Capitol Hill. And by the way, we also, in Buzzard Point, we have a podcast. We have a national podcast now that we're in the weeds. The interesting part was that the wharf for me was the place where I just went and got some seafood for my restaurant, Bernays. It wasn't anything. And I drive across that bridge now and I look at that area, I'm like, I can't believe the opportunity that it's created. It's
created a real destination. It's become a regional destination. Post-COVID, our economy is largely built around tourism. And when tourism tanked during that time, we were really concerned. But it came back rebounded pretty quickly with regional visitation.
Yeah.
People coming from, this DMV area to have some time on the waterfront, they could go to the wharf.
That's right. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And so talk a little bit about, one, I just want to give a big shout out because I know you were the city proposed the first $1 million for securing the planning grant for DC Central Kitchen.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal. I mean, this is the building we're in here now, which is
fantastic.
Phenomenal compared to where they used to be.
Yep.
And so they do so much work here, which is great. But during you brought up the COVID. I feel like when I think of COVID, I'd like to put it in
me
the
too.
rearview mirror. I don't even try to bring it up as much. But there was some real work that you guys did to support local businesses during those COVID. And I mean, there was grants and financial support that you did, the outdoor dining initiative, which I didn't even know how to name, called the Streetery Program. Yeah. Can you tell me about the Streetery Program?
Well, I feel very proud of the work we did. I like to put it in the rearview mirror too, but we're still recovering. And part of what we did, over $100 million, really quick. to local businesses, especially restaurants. We called it the Bridge and the Bridge Fund. We tried to make it easy. And what I recognized about restaurants, which I always knew, but restaurateurs are gritty. You know, they have grit and determination. They want to keep their people employed, but also they're nimble. Like they can adjust.
That's
because
right.
like this is the environment. So how can we deliver food to people's houses? And by the way, they're going to need some alcohol. So can you change the law?
Big time.
Can you do that? Then they're going to want to come outside and eat, and we can figure out how to make this work and do it safely. So we tried to be just as nimble as our business community. And I think it kept a lot of our residents employed and kept a lot of doors open during that time. And in the meanwhile, I think there were some innovations around alcohol sales.
That's right.
I will shout out Millie's, one of our restaurants, who to this day, they developed something called a taco box. Have you had it?
I have had it. And I just read it.
Oh my God.
I think they were just in the magazine as like one of the #1 restaurant destinations to D.C. We got a little problem with the mic. No big deal. Do you want to just fix that, Andrew, for us? There you go.
Yep. And so they it serves like 5 people. You order the box and that's done.
Yeah.
And you put it
You're
out
done.
on the counter and you're done cooking.
Is a box that you get to your home? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You can't have the box at the restaurant.
You can't. Well, I don't think so. But I think you have to go pick it up, and it's just I think it was COVID innovation that has lasted.
There was a lot of those, one of the things that was for us was an innovating position for our restaurants, which just means we hired more people is, for fast casual restaurants, we never had a host, for instance. It wasn't like a restaurant where you would sit down or get greeted, or you just come in, order your food and sit down. But during COVID, we felt like we didn't have to handhold cut consumers, but they were just very worried about whether people were wearing masks or the cleanliness. So we just developed a concierge at the restaurant,
Okay.
which basically can handle any questions that you have. So when you come into the restaurant now, for instance, We the Pizza, you get greeted, you get guided through your experience. And I think especially with some of the inflation that we're seeing in the market, adding more value, right, more customer service to restaurants was an innovation for us for fast casuals that we didn't think about
Fantastic.
prior to COVID. So,
Fantastic.
Mayor, tell me about I want to go back a little bit before all your amazing accomplishments and understand a little bit more, what food meant to you back in the day, like when you were growing up in DC. Like what were you eating? What was like the family table like?
Well, my family is kind of a casual family.
Yeah.
So we weren't a family that, we had the place settings at the dinner table and everybody ate at the same time. And we just kind of ate. My mother hates when I say this, but for a period of time, I think like my main dinner snack was RC Cola and Mr. Goodbar with my father, because that was his favorite thing.
Yeah.
RC Cola and Mr. Goodbar.
RC Cola.
She said that that's not true, but it is very definitely true.
It's funny how mothers remember a history a little differently than
it
us.
Was that. But for us, like my daughter, who's very familiar with restaurants at age 6, an outing for us was going to the hot shops. Do you remember that?
I don't. It was probably before my time here.
It was before your time. So the Marriotts are, they're DC folks. They went to Roosevelt High School, and the first thing that they had was a cart, and then that's how the hot shops got started. And then they had a restaurant out in Langley Park, which was outside of DC, but fairly close for us to go. And every payday, my mother and I went to the hot shops. That was our outing. So I remember that just quite fondly. I think kids are growing up, especially my kid, is growing up a little bit differently, where being in and out of restaurants is no big thing. But for us, we ate at home,
right?
And we went to the hot shops occasionally.
Yeah, and that was your special experience.
That was my
funny. I have an 8-year-old Ace. Yours is
6. She's 6.
6 years old, and she's got quite a palate.
She actually does.
Yeah.
It definitely a broader palate than I had at her age.
Yeah.
She loves She loves steak. She'll eat avocado. She asked me the other day, can we go get some sushi?
Ooh, sushi at 6 years old? That's
sushi at 6 years old. We go to the Whole Foods, and that's a treat for her. But she does have a pretty good palate.
Yeah. You were always, a huge champion, and that's some of the work that we started getting together, but food access for all 8 wards,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's been something that's been very important to you, food equity, and especially in Ward 7 and 8. Oh, we always talk about it as all 8 wards, obviously,
Yes.
but some wards need a little bit more attention than others. And tell me why was that such an important piece of your role here as mayor?
Well, before I was mayor, I represented one of our districts, one of the wards, Ward 4, on the council, and it was always a big concern that we didn't have sit-down restaurants. And so people would leave, like I just told you, my family, I grew up in Ward 5, but very similar to Ward 4, would leave our neighborhood and frequently go to Maryland. Not that there's anything wrong with going to Maryland, but when you're mayor, you want to circulate the tax dollars in your own jurisdiction. And so many of our residents will leave the city in order to go to a decent restaurant. That's circa 2008 and before,
right,
like what you were saying. So getting and keeping people in the city not only helps the tax base, but it helps the vibrancy. And so, I'm not going to tell you how tough the restaurant business is. So restaurateurs would look to the areas where there's a lot of people traffic, where there's a lot of commuter traffic, where there's a lot of tourists, and those would be the safer bets to open your business.
Right.
So for the areas that don't have all of those things, we felt strongly that the government had to be involved. And I started the Food Access Grant, which is like seed money for entrepreneurs to get started and open. In the last several years, we also started a commercial acquisition grant, which allows those entrepreneurs a pretty hefty grant from the city to own their businesses. That's and right. Own their buildings. And so we have seen great progress with that. Seed ideas get started. The neighborhood supporting those ideas and letting the food scene kind of grow out of the downtown monumental core, out of just Capitol Hill, which these are our business centers as well, into areas where people live.
Yeah. Why is it so important for people to have a notion of ownership over their businesses, you feel?
Well, I think ownership just allows you to take a few more risk in some ways, especially in this environment where it's a little bit more uncertain what your lease terms are going to be. When you own something, I think that people innovate a little bit more and take more risk.
Yeah. Well, I had, it's funny, you took a risk on me. I have to say, you took a big risk on me. For those who don't know, I'd served as chairman of the Food Policy Council, D.C.'s first Food Policy Council. Yes. And it was a big piece of legislation that really just, pushed better food policy, and there's different areas of it, whether it was urban farming or, jobs or, why did you take a risk on me and I'll never forget, the opportunity you gave me. I always say that you gave me an opportunity of a lifetime because I never had thought of food beyond the 4 walls of my restaurants.
Right.
I'm, like you said, I'm in the weeds. I'm just trying to make a dollar, trying to survive here in the restaurant industry. But the opportunity to join as chairman of the Food Policy Council, which to me was way above my pay grade, it allowed me to discover a voice on food could live outside the 4 walls. It can improve the community. It can help bring people out of poverty, for instance, or help them learn how to get their hands on fresh foods.
Yep.
It was a big risk. I went from interviewing, dishwashers to Harvard grads for the Food Policy Council,
Right. Right.
So, why was it important to have a chef, in that space with you?
Well, I think it was important for us.
Or did you just love my French toast and you were like, this kid?
I do love your French toast and I love you. But I thought it was important for us to have a practitioner, that's first, and to have someone who had broad reach.
Yeah.
Because too often we can be kind of insular. Somebody told me once when I first became mayor, take advantage of the fact that while you're mayor, people will answer your phone call. And I think for a long while in D.C., we kind of looked inside. We only looked inside, and we didn't make the call to the celebrity chef or your equivalent in other industries. So I thought to myself, while you're thinking, why did you take a risk on me? I'm thinking, oh my God, how can I get Spike to do this? Because that was what I think we needed. We needed to step outside of kind of insular government talk,
Yes.
and talk to a practitioner who had a broader, wider reach.
Yeah.
And so that's why we did it.
I thought it was, I was just so honored at the beginning. And the interesting part for me going through the learning process is, of course, we had to nominate 12 people to be part of the Food Policy Council. We already had a very active food advocacy in the district. We had a ton of organizations doing a lot of good work already. I think the one missing piece was what you just said, is bringing them together, because a lot of them were shouting the same exact messaging. A lot of them were kind of doing some maybe similar jobs in the city, but they weren't all under a piece of legislation, an umbrella where they can actually talk to each other. So I think on one piece, the Food Policy Council did that. But the other really interesting part, the way the legislation was wrote, and we owe that to Mary J, right, is that she involved the community aspect with the government and the private sector. And it was for the very first time I think that we had all three of those different people talking to each other.
And I think the other really good thing was we made it clear that food policy is the food economy. Food policy is also health.
Yes. So Mayor, tell me a little bit more about how food is health, because I think some people, I think people are starting to connect those dots a lot more. But, good food equity means so much more than just a meal and sustenance. It means brain power. It means opportunity in so many different ways. Can you just expand about that a little bit for us?
I mean, I just think when we look across neighborhoods and there's not fresh food available in some neighborhoods, and you go to others and there are 5 grocery stores within, 5-minute walk. And so you can see how it's not that people aren't choosing healthy food because they're not smart. They're choosing what's available.
Right.
And they're often choosing what they can afford. It started resonating with me when I first got into politics, and I would be out on the streets campaigning, talking to people. And I would watch a steady stream of children going to school, on their way to school, stopping at a cart and buying orange soda. And I would just be like, oh God, there's food at school.
Yeah.
Just go eat. And so it just, but that is a behavior that certainly is learned and habit forming, and then we have to just confront the reality that we have to compete with that.
Right.
So how do we make it, cool and fun and good for a kid to go into school breakfast?
That's right.
Instead of stopping and hanging out at the cart in the morning and getting an orange soda. So that's the, a kind of simple way to think about how we are putting more fresh foods in our schools, how we're making school lunch free for more kids. Now, all of our kids, I think, across D.C. public schools can have breakfast.
That's right.
Regardless of income, of their family income. And we also, through some, at the time, emergency federal programs, were able to make lunches free for more families and offer free lunch during the summer. So it's not just about the money aspect of food, but also how kids are learning to eat nutritious meals. And I think we continue to learn, and I'm speaking for myself. I came to this much later in life.
Yeah.
How am I really choosing good foods and now that I have a kid, how am I choosing good foods for her? So we I put up a little whiteboard in our house, and I challenge her, you have to eat 30 fruits and vegetables a week, and we count it. And so a little competition.
Ooh, I like that.
And so, she's into it, and she knows that. And I try to simplify it for her. I said, you have to have a lot of different things mixing up in your belly to be healthy. Different colors, different vegetables, different fruits, more beans. So that's something that we can't take for granted. that people understand.
Yeah. I love that you're gamifying that piece of
Yeah.
it because, as a chef, I went to a lot of schools to improve school meals and to do a lot of research, especially when Michelle Obama had her initiative, right?
Yeah.
We were heading all sorts of DC schools. And one of the things that annoyed me was, and it's okay if people do it, but like the hiding of vegetables in meals, right? It always felt like, kids should know what they're eating and
Right.
why they're eating it.
Right.
Like it's why are we hiding or blending
Right.
in a soup? So the idea that you're gamifying it, I think is really, really fun.
Yeah.
Is there anything that your daughter does struggle with? Like, is there something that she won't, like okra? Like, has okra been on the board for a while and she hasn't?
That's probably because I struggle with
You
okra.
struggle with okra. Who doesn't struggle with okra?
I actually struggle with beans.
Beans.
And she loves beans.
Oh,
So, like, my challenge to myself in 2025 would be to add beans.
more beans.
More
I
beans.
can send you some bean recipes.
right.
I got you some bean
All right.
recipes. I love the two things that you brought: fresher meals for schools.
Yes.
And I think what you were also saying is fresher opportunity of fresher ingredients in let's say like food deserts, right?
Right.
Where they don't have those things in front of them because they may very well buy those things if they have the opportunity to, right?
Right.
So the healthy corner stores.
That's a big thing. And because the thing about grocery stores that I've learned is grocers, they are very risk averse. And so they're not going to take chances on neighborhoods like you would.
That's right.
And so we have to really work hard to get grocers interested in neighborhoods where there aren't a lot of grocery stores. And so we've come up with some different things. We were able to get a new grocer to Ward 7, and Ward 7 hadn't had a new grocery store in, I think, 25 years. So Lidl came in.
Big time.
And Lidl has taken a big bet on D.C., so we're going to try to get them into some other neighborhoods. But we need new concepts too. And I think actually restaurants can be a part of this. We need smaller concepts.
That's right.
And where it could be, grocery and come and get your coffee and breakfast.
That's right.
So we need those types of and they don't have to serve, 50,000 different, barcodes for the grocer. You can have the things that people need to buy every day.
Essentials,
Milk,
yeah.
eggs, some meat. We like, there to be meat offered and fresh fruit. And then the other smaller items. So we're looking for different concepts to invest in. The grocery store model has to evolve. It hasn't changed that much.
No, it definitely needs to evolve, and I have some ideas on how that can evolve, and we could talk about it. But I definitely agree with you. I mean, one, like smaller square footage,
Yes.
first of all, is great. Smaller restaurants, you mentioned
Yes.
it, right? Because I think one of the issues people take on, they always think it needs to be huge space, right? And for that, and if they take the big space, they have to put so many things on that shelf, right? So your inventory is already blown. Mayor, we've had some fun over the years together, and you're very busy, so I want to be cognizant of your time. But you do have a little bit of competitive nature in you, right? I mean, let's talk about
Yes.
how you whooped the mayor of Paris in a crepe battle. Are you still making crepes at home?
I don't make crepes at home, but I would.
Yeah.
I would make. I enjoy crepes, and I love the Anne Hidalgo. She's an amazing mayor, and Paris is an amazing city, and we have we're like cousins.
Yes.
DC and Paris built on the same type of plan. So
You have a great relationship with Paris.
I do.
Yeah.
We have a great with Mary Hidalgo as well, and because she's been mayor, I think we've been mayor about the same amount of time, and she's bold.
Yeah.
She's committed to making sure that we're doing things in cities to support the climate, not tear down the climate, and I know you're interested in that as well. And I've just really enjoyed working with her a lot.
Yeah. What are some of the things that, because you do have a conference, is it like, what's it called, the global?
Yes, it's a global conference of mayors, and then she started a subset for women for climate change, women mayors for the climate. And so it's Mayor Bloomberg has convened a group of mayors also called in the C40 C40 cities.
Yeah.
Where we're committed, and we know that we're going to have to be pretty focused in the years ahead.
Yeah. Well, speaking of competition, I got, I have a little something here
Oh.
that they brought in. I heard there's someone that travels with this award here.
Ah.
Tell us about the largest pupusa record. I mean, listen, I've been a chef my entire life. I still don't have one of these Guinness World Records, man.
We
should have called me up.
We have some more ideas. Well, it was actually this is the brainchild of Fiesta D.C. Who Maria Patricia Corrales and a wonderful group of people came to us with this idea that they wanted to have as part of Fiesta D.C., which we host in D.C. every year in September. They wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of crazy because that's a big pupusa.
It's a huge pupusa.
And it blows the record. I think this one was 20 by 20. I think the last one was 14 by 14.
Ooh, so you guys blew it out.
They blew it out. And some of the chefs came in from El Salvador and other parts of Latin America.
Yeah.
I had been in El Salvador and made a pupusa.
Yes.
And, pupusa and, we're kind of similar to a crepe.
Yes.
Except that griddle is freaking hot.
It's
like, man, this is maybe the hottest I've ever been in my life. So
we may have to, maybe you have to stretch a pizza next because
stretch a
you
pizza.
seem to be good with the crepe, the pupusa situation. Why is it important to do events like this? I mean, I know that there's a huge El Salvadorian community here in the district.
Yep.
Why is it important? And we're maybe one of the most culturally diverse cities. Maybe is that true? I think that's safe to say, right?
Salvadorians are our largest immigrant community, followed by Ethiopians.
Yes.
And so I've recently, I guess in the last 5 years, I visited both El Salvador and Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And it meant so much to our residents. I go to many places, many restaurants,
right.
in fact, and Salvadorians will say, you visited my hometown.
Oh, and they love that, right?
Loved it.
Yeah.
And it gave me just a great experience and understanding of where people were coming from and going back and forth, too, in our city. So that was a great experience. And I learned about pupusas.
I mean, who doesn't like a pupusa?
Yes, it's pretty good.
We used to get them, we obviously have a bunch of different concepts. I don't have a Salvadorian concept, but a lot of our family meals is where they'll make pupusas. The staff will make pupusas. That's how I was introduced to pupusas.
Okay.
So I always look forward to Wednesday pupusa day at the restaurant. I think people will do an unbelievable job. The other thing I think that's super attractive about the city is how transient it is and how culturally diverse it is. It's very attractive to entrepreneurs that are looking to open up new businesses or have a fresh start.
Right.
I think that's really, paved the opportunity for DC in a big way, right? Just being so transient. It's almost like a lot of entrepreneurs and big name chefs come to test some of their first concepts out here in the DC area.
That would be amazing. And what people say, I guess people do move in and move out, but people like me, 5 generations, people live here.
Yes.
We're born here and raised here and stay here. And so we do get to welcome a lot of people who come here for college. And guess what? They stay too. Somebody gave me a statistic about the number of college, graduates of colleges in D.C. that stay on in D.C. And it's pretty big. I was surprised by it. I think it was like 60% will stay for a number of years in D.C. And we see a number of those colleges growing that, colleges from around the United States will have outposts in D.C. So that's one reason why our kind of the number of people here who are young people continues to grow.
Yeah, no, that's refreshing to hear. And I love your statistic about tourism. You said it's up in a big way
it's
these days.
Rebounded pre-pandemic. We're over where we were. And I think part of that is that a lot of our domestic tourism increased. People discovered, like you mentioned, your friends from all over the states discovered D.C. as a place to visit, even outside of the monuments and memorials. And as we see our international travel climb back, I was with the Japanese ambassador recently, where we're always celebrating the friendship between Japan and the United States and our cherry blossom trees. One of the most iconic things about our city are those cherry blossom trees. So I convinced him to stop giving trees to other states, and he agreed.
Ooh, I like that. Were they just handing them away? They were just giving...
I just learned. He told me that they had given some of saplings of our trees, the Washington cherry blossoms, to other places. I said, please stop doing that. Those are our trees. But we're going to get 250 more that go around the tidal basin as part of the tidal basin's renovation, much needed renovation. So that's amazing. But also, we sent a delegation from Destination D.C. recently to Tokyo to talk about other exchanges, business exchange. There are a lot of Japanese companies doing business here as well. And they're very interested in the food scene. He introduced me to his 2 chefs from Japan.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Some serious stuff right there.
There's some serious business at the Japanese. Get yourself invited to a dinner there.
It's such a big moment, actually, cherry blossom season. I think I have people emailing me months ahead of time to make sure that we're going to have the cherry blossom shake on the menu at Good Stuff Eatery. Because, we're right there by the Capitol. You can easily kind of walk up. So it's always like an item that people love. Tell me, Mary, I want to feed you some pizza. I cooked you a little something.
Thank you.
I know you got to go pretty soon, right? I want to be cognizant of your time. But, I'd love to know what's next for DC. I know there's been some big investments. Like you had a part in the Monumental deal.
Yes, for sure.
Tell us why that's going to be so. By the way, that's a big win.
That's
for a guy that has restaurants in the DC area. Right. I can tell you. And
is wearing some kind of jersey.
The DC Central Kitchen. I'm a food hero, food fighter. I was really worried about business leaving DC, and our sports teams, going outside. It was a big moment when I read the article. We were almost kind of had a sigh of relief for the whole entire neighborhood there.
Well, I think what was critical is we made it clear that our sports teams, Washington sports teams, belong in Washington.
That's right.
And that we would work with Monumental Sports, as we have for the last 25 years, and they've been a very successful company in D.C. Anytime you go to that arena, like I like to say, it's packed out.
That's right.
And we're talking about the Wizards, who've had some lean years, and we're looking forward to them rebuilding and building a championship team. The Capitals, who are having a heck of a season so far. And we want, and the concerts.
Yes, the shows are big time.
The shows are huge, and they've only grown in the last 5 years, and they're sold out shows. A lot of different artists. I mean, more diversity in the artists that are coming than I've ever seen there, and they're doing really well. So we have to continue that momentum. So we advanced a $500 million deal that are going to allow them to renovate in place over 3 summers, much like Madison Square Garden did in New York City. And it's beautiful, and it's going to be a better connectivity between the arena and the businesses that surround it. So I think that's amazing. So we have Audi Field here. Our women who play here at Audi Field, right here at Buzzard Point Women's Soccer, they're going to the championship.
Big deal.
Packed out, 19,000 people here over the weekend. So that's just huge for our city. So we only have 1 more to go.
And the Mystics, right?
The Mystics have had championship teams. We want to get them back on top.
I think I'm excited about them. I mean, women's basketball these days is just taking all
it's
time.
Fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we've had, I think last year, several games where the Mystics played downtown at Cap
That's right.
One.
Yeah.
To sold out crowds. And we have a football team that needs to come home. So we're working on that.
We do. And they're doing pretty good right now, right?
Are you kidding? They're doing great. They can go all the way. You heard me say it here. They can go all the way.
I'm a Canadian boy, Mayor, so you have to forgive me about my football knowledge. I usually go to the hockey games, as you know. So I have a pizza here for you. Are you want a slice?
I'm actually starving.
Are you starving? Okay, great. And look, I'm dressing it up for you, right? This is just not,
Okay,
We have a new pizza today at We the Pizza. It's soppressata. We have a little bit of arugula. Do you do salad on pizza, or are you
I like arugula.
You're like, what are you doing, Chef Spike? Why are you putting salad on my pizza? And then what about some hot honey?
I'll try it.
Could be good for the cough today.
Okay, I'll try it.
Just a little drizzle of hot honey on. That's a big drizzle.
It helps with the arugula, right?
It helps with the arugula, right? Just like that. Boom. And then a little geothermal salt. I have this cool salt, right? I can't just bring any salt to the table.
I was wondering.
This is Icelandic salt
Okay.
from Iceland. The cool thing about this salt, Mayor, is that it's super sustainable, and you do a bunch of sustainable stuff for the city. You're into sustainability and climate change.
I am.
This is geothermal powered salt production, which is really cool, interesting.
I'll try it.
Side note, yeah. to take a bite. This is Mayor Bowser's pizza review.
That's excellent.
Officially. What is your favorite pizzeria in DC? This is a trick question.
I wanna
Don't answer that one.
We the pizza.
We the pizza, and we got some napkins for you there, Mayor.
That's amazing. I love that hot honey and the arugula.
Yeah. Anything we?
I like that it's it's.
Yeah, tell me about it. Pretend like I'm on a show. I just serve you this. My life is on the line.
Well, first of all, I would have never done it.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I would have thought that the arugula had to be at least warm.
Okay.
But I like that it's not.
It's nice and crispy, fresh.
It's
all right.
crispy, it's fresh, and I love the honey.
Beautiful.
It's amazing. But the pizza, the crust, the sauce.
It's a DC staple. I think,
that's good.
Yeah.
That's
One of the
excellent.
things when I moved from New York here, we had Jumbo Slice in Adams Morgan, which Adams Morgan's having a whole revival over there in itself.
That jumbo slice, that's iconic.
Does that take you back?
It takes
you
way
back. Yeah. I remember eating Jumbo Slice late at night, and it would just, I think half of the pizza would be on me. They were just so big.
You need to look at Adams Morgan again.
I need to?
Yep, it's time.
Yeah.
So I tell people I'm giving you just a hint there, because like a few years ago we were worried about Georgetown.
That's right.
Georgetown was having a lot of competition from the wharf, the Navy Yard. We were worried about it.
Yeah.
It's back.
It's so back.
It's so back.
I was just there for. You were at the opening at the
yes.
Mimosa.
Yes.
I mean, what they did with that beautiful,
it's incredible.
old Dean and DeLuca building.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I have to go back. I was there for the opening, but I want to go back.
Yeah.
But Georgetown is back. I was there over the weekend. I wanted to stop at the TJ Maxx.
Yeah.
It's back. Georgetown, the streets are back. Georgetown is back.
Yeah, Georgetown is back.
That's the feeling that I'm getting about
Adams Morgan. I love that. Well, the Line Hotel did a big deal over there,
Line
right?
Hotel.
Yeah.
And so it's this opportunity there.
Yeah. I was saying, talking about attracting some heavy hitters in the food and beverage world, right? Steven Starr has opened a ton of restaurants here, right? Like the La Diplomat. I was just there the other day.
The other one over at Union Market.
The other one, Union Market. And I'll tell you, to attract a chef like Nancy Silverton, right, off all the way to the West Coast to here, it's a big deal for DC.
Thank you.
I was telling people, this is a big deal. This is, who we're talking about here. We're talking about Nancy. She's a legend in the industry, and she's decided to open up her restaurant with Steven Starr.
You have to get her in the weeds.
I do have to get her in the weeds. That's by the way, that is a great recommendation. Andrew, we got to get Nancy on in the weeds. Mayor, I know we're at time here, and was there a special fact about the Go-Go Museum that you had brought up that we wanted to share about the investment, I think it was?
Oh, just that they were a recipient of the Food Access Fund.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Go-Go, well, they have a food concept in the museum.
That's right, yeah.
And we're going to also, I think, invest in the place next door, like a tavern. And so that's, we need that on Martin Luther King Avenue.
Yes.
People need to, have their local watering hole.
Yeah.
The place where they go to see friends, have a bite to eat, go for lunch. We moved a lot of our office spaces over there. So we're just really excited about the Go-Go Museum. It's a great concept, and it's been perfectly executed.
Beautiful. I mean, you're just so busy with just reviving DC and keeping it hip, and it's just it's so nice just as an entrepreneur seeing a mayor that really is behind the industry and sees it the way we see it, right?
Yes.
That people need living wages, right? People want some opportunity. As well, people want to be their own entrepreneurs.
Yep.
Even the Food Policy Council, we had the Cottage Act that let people really prepare foods in their own homes and sell them.
Yep.
Just things like that are very important for communities.
And I the kind of the business aspect is on my mind. I want to make sure that our businesses can make it. So there are some things that may be hard, decisions that we have to take on, but we have to take them on.
Yeah.
We need our entrepreneurs to be able to survive, and we need to stay competitive with our surrounding jurisdictions. So all of that is on my mind.
Are we going to see a fourth term? We're going to see a fourth term, maybe? We all want it.
Pass me my pizza.
Listen, anything else you'd like to say, Mayor?
No, just Spike, thank you. Thank you for believing in DC. And we are proud of our relationship with you, and keep making great food and hiring great residents. What DC Central Kitchen does here is show people that you could earn a living and raise your family in the food business.
Yeah. Well, I second that 100%. I don't know if you know, but we have a superstar from DC Central Kitchen. He was a graduate from here. He came from a very, very struggling place in his life. His name's Mike Hall. And he actually serves as a board member on DC Central Kitchen.
Okay.
He's running 3 of our restaurants now.
Awesome.
He's invested in DC real estate after graduation. And it's just like, it's an amazing story. To your point, what they do here at DC Central Kitchen is invaluable. I think the notion that food should be a privilege and not a human right is something that we just need to break the ceiling on. We got to break it, right? And I think you're doing that. And thank you for being on this podcast. I'd love to have you back again.
My pleasure.
Hear about more updates, and we'll just do the out. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this captivating episode of In the Weeds podcast with our special guest, Mayor Muriel Bowser. To learn more about what's cooking with the mayor, visit mayor.dc.gov. A special shout out goes to our fantastic sponsors, Saltwerk, the most sustainable salt on the planet, Open Water, More Ocean, Less Plastic, Just Iced Tea, and We the Pizza. To learn more about our sponsors, visit their links in our show notes. And a huge thank you to our broadcast home, DC Central Kitchen, for their unwavering support. They're not just serving up food, they're serving up real change. Learn more and get involved at dccentralkitchen.org. To catch up on past episodes or to subscribe for future ones, head over to the intheweedspot.com, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. The kitchen may be closed for now, but the conversation never stops. We are 86. For now, until next time.